Hi guys. I am at another park, so there is more screaming, but it is gorgeous outside, and I just wanted to get into nature. Um, One thing that I've been thinking about for a while is like the concept of light and dark, and how we have these preconceived notions of what's good or bad or light or dark or scary or acceptable or any of the other like terms that we use to distinguish something that is just what it is without needing to be distinguished. And I think about the fact that for a while I would consider myself a light worker, and I think that I realized that putting labels on things kind of limits the possibilities. And so, you know, when you say like I'm a light worker, it kind of it's not, I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that it does give the connotation that there is light and dark. But when you think of like shamanism or forms of energy that work in deeper levels of consciousness and deeper levels of energy, it's not necessarily darker energy, it's just under the roots. And so it's not always like up above on the surface where the flowers are blooming. Sometimes you have to get under the roots to figure out a problem. Sometimes you need to dig deeper. And because of my upbringing and because of things that I've experienced personally, you have this fear of things that are considered like darker magic, or things that are considered, working with darker spirits. But when you're in a place where you're helping, spirits cross over, you can't make that distinguishing factor of I only want to work with spirits that are what I consider lighter spirits, because those might not be the spirits that need help. Those might be, it might just be like very surface level. And in order to get deeper and actually like affect the change that you want to affect, then I think having to change our perspective of what we consider scary, or what we consider fearful, or what we allow ourselves to comprehend, right? And I think that's the hard part, is our minds can go so much deeper than what we allow them to on a conscious level at times. And I think that taking out those labels and taking out those thought processes of the past, and realizing that things are just as they are. They're not good or bad, or yes, there's things that seem very bad to us because of our moral standards, but at the same time they are just actions, and they are what they are. And I think that for me personally, I know that that's something that I'm really working on a spiritual level. Like I said, working with the spirit realm is understanding that not all spirits that come to us are going to look friendly, and not all of them are going to be in a body or in a form that seems safe. And understanding that we're protected, understanding that there's obviously, it's hard because there are some boundaries that you have to set. Just like as a person and an individual, you have to set your boundaries. Same thing in the spiritual world, and you do have to set your boundaries. But at the same time, understanding within those boundaries you are safe, and maybe not everything is going to come in a form that looks flowery or looks light and inviting, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad. And darkness doesn't necessarily mean that things are bad. Just because things are something that we're uncomfortable with or something that we don't understand, it doesn't mean that it's unsafe. It just means that it's something that we haven't comprehended yet. And so I think that there's like, a lot of depth to be had to going as deep as we can into ourselves. And after doing shadow work, and you see things that are a little bit harder to process, right? And I realized that kind of carries over into everything. I realized that it's not just about, sometimes we create the most change and we're the most effective when we look beyond what we see on a daily basis and we look deep below into the murky waters, right, of our psyche, of our soul, of our energy. And it's not necessarily the funnest thing to do, because it takes courage and it takes bravery and it takes being able to be strong within yourself. But I think that that's the thing that's the most important to do. And so for me personally, I'm just trying to let go of those labels, and I'm not trying to let go of saying I'm this or I'm that or I'm this. And I've even let go of the label of being a healer, and because I find that it creates a limitation. And being able to be accepting that there might be a lot of other things that I haven't even skimmed the surface of, that I'm cutting out because of the fact that I'm choosing to label it and say, oh, I'm only okay with this label, but not okay with other labels. I'm trying to explore all of it. So it's a journey, and every day we're learning, every day we're growing. But I just think that being able to realize that, going into the deeper levels and going into the realms that are below, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not necessarily a scary thing. It's not necessarily a dark thing, right? Because there's a lot of dark goddesses that are beautiful goddesses to work with, but they do require a different mindset to be able to work within their energies. So anyways, that's my thought of today.